today we're actually jumping across the pond, and I wanted to connect with a very dear and old friend of mine, Amber. Amber and I actually, we were competing in the Miss Scuba International pageant at the same time. She represented Ireland, I represented the United States, and that was 5 years ago. And she reached out to me recently and was like, hey, Tabitha, my boyfriend has developed this really incredible app. It's called Track Together, and it's really garnered a lot of attention in the UK. And so I decided to ask Guy and Amber to join me and talk a little bit about what Track Together is. So take it away.
Well, unfortunately, Amber's been unwell for a bit, so we were kind of in quarantine, in lockdown here in the UK, so we were getting a bit bored and weren't really sure where the disease was necessarily spreading, so kind of decided to put our skill sets to use, and with two friends who are elsewhere, we decided to build Track Together, essentially to help local residents determine how many potential cases of COVID-19 there were in their communities. So built it over a weekend as quickly as possible, released it. It got a really positive response. We got several thousand respondents within 24 hours, and it's still growing. And as a result, we've actually been in contact with quite a few leading research institutions, both in the States and here in the UK. So we're hoping actually that the data can be put to good use, scientific use, to actually help fight and track the spread of COVID-19 globally.
And it's very simple to use. That's what I liked when Amber sent it to me and I looked at it. I was like, oh, I can fill this out in 15 seconds.
Yeah, that was absolutely the goal. There are a few apps out there as well, and we hope they gather good data. But we figured it's a lot to ask of someone to download an app and fill in 3 minutes worth of questionnaires. We just wanted to get as many people on board as possible, and that was it. Let's keep it to under 10 questions, just a simple website, and we can get it out to people as quickly as possible.
And Guy, what is your background in? Do you work in app development now?
Yeah. So my background's been in sports and tech. So at the moment I work for a social sports startup, Crowd9. And obviously I reached out to a former colleague who's also a techie, and we just thought, let's put our skills to good use.
And so far, what have you been able to see from the data that's been gathered?
Well, it's interesting, of course. So within our particular borough in London, I think there were about 55 confirmed cases. And from our data alone, there were, I can't remember, I believe a similar amount of symptoms reported. And these weren't even people that had confirmed tests. And then one other thing that we found, Amber's actually lost her sense of smell and taste. And obviously that's been quite frequently reported on the press, but not a confirmed symptom. We found that from I think it's about 1,600 people that reported symptoms, a third of them had actually reported this as a symptom as well. So I think that was a really interesting and eye-opening one for us, because we couldn't find any confirmation of that online, but a third of our people were reporting it.
And now that you have this data and it's continuing to grow, I know you mentioned that you've been kind of in contact with different research institutions. What have they said to you about it? Have they said that they're going to try and use it and spread the word about it as well?
Definitely. So we're working, I need to wait for full confirmation from their kind of press office to confirm who it is, but we're working with a world-leading epidemiologist and a host of professors, and they basically believe that if we map this, bear in mind I'm not the expert, but they believe that if we map this data with GPS data that they've collected, we should actually be able to predict future outbreaks and also help people immediately by letting them know when they should be going to hospital, when they should be receiving care. So there's a lot of good use that this data could do, really, and we're going to be working with them to make sure that it really does deliver results.
And I'll make sure that anyone who sees this obviously has easy access to check it out. Like I said, it takes 15 seconds to fill it out. It's how many questions? 9, 10 questions?
Yeah, I think it's 9 at the moment.
Yeah, it's not terribly complicated, but it's incredibly helpful, especially as researchers are trying to navigate this really unknown plane of what's happening and how do we stop the spread and how do we get information out. I kind of want to shift focus and talk to you both, because you're in the UK, you just got put on mandatory lockdown, but you, like you said, you were already quarantining for a week before.
I mean, last Tuesday, I woke up with a bit of a cough, and then I experienced fever symptoms for about 2 days after that. So at that point, given the recommendations from the government, we kind of like, well, we should be self-isolating, making sure we're not seeing anyone. So we've been doing that since last Tuesday. I was feeling better on the Saturday, and then sat down to have dinner on Tuesday night and thought maybe Guy hadn't seasoned it properly. I was like, can you taste this? He was like, yeah, what are you talking about? And then I went and sprayed some perfume, tried to smell it, nothing.
Wow.
So yeah, I still can't smell or taste anything. So eating right now is not very pleasant. But I've spoken to quite a few people who have had this. In some cases, it comes back in 4 or 5 days. In others, it's taken weeks. So
The symptoms or COVID-19?
Not being able to taste or smell.
Gotcha. Now, if you wanted to get a test, could you?
Not right now. You can only get a test if you're in hospital. So the NHS provide a number that anyone with symptoms can call. The whole time was about 4 hours. I did eventually get through to someone, but unless you need to go into hospital, you can't get a test here in the UK. It's pretty impossible. So they told us yesterday they bought 3.5 million test kits, but I imagine that the tests will initially go out to those who are working on the front line. Then after that, will probably go out to people who have symptoms currently, and then they're saying it may be made available to buy online. But it's an unknown, maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow. And Guy, how are you feeling about this? And do you feel okay?
I feel fine. This is the thing. I was actually ill 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, and no one really knows whether or not they've had it, and that was a large kind of stimulus for what we created. I think there are a lot of people that think they may have had it in late February or early Feb even. But I've been fine. Just together, and yeah, it's interesting. My family are based in Tokyo, and they kind of had this way earlier than us, of course.
Yeah.
And they took social distancing measures far earlier as a precaution. So my younger brothers were taken out of school, for example, and it almost just seemed inevitable that it was going to happen because we were able to kind of see into the future by seeing how they were reacting elsewhere.
And how are things in Tokyo now?
So they were fine. They were kind of back to them, but they've reportedly they're going to be going into lockdown soon. So they had a jump in cases from I think 16 on one given day to 41 the next. So I think they're taking more strict measures than that from this week onwards.
And what are you guys doing to stay sane?
Yeah, well, that was quite a difficult one. While I was feeling unwell, I was just resting. But now that I'm sort of up and about again, I've been doing online sessions with my clients, so online personal training and yoga, and that's been really nice. So it's kind of created a structure again to my day.
And then if anyone had any questions or wanted to connect with you more about Track Together, Guy, how should they reach out to you?
The website's tracktogether.co.uk. We're actually going to move to an international domain now because we're hoping to get more of an audience out in the US and give, I guess, citizens there more insight into the disease. But there's an email address at the bottom of that as well.
Awesome. Well, guys, I really appreciate you giving me even just a little bit of insight on what it's like to be under quarantine in the UK and telling me more about Track Together. And hopefully, we'll get a lot of good data and we'll make it on the other side of this and we'll be better informed citizens.
Definitely.
Thanks, Tabitha.
Thank you for your time.